Okay, you saw in the last video, we used the oscilloscope. We confirmed that we have a Tach signal from the MSD ignition going in under the dash. I contorted myself and pulled the tachometer out of the dash, and I'll probably be sore for a week. So now that the Tach's out and looking at it, this capacitor is obviously overheated. You can see that the cover has shrunk. You can't tell on camera, but the top rubber cover is bulged. More than likely, back in the day, this capacitor was leaky or maybe even shorted, but it doesn't matter. Even though I could fix this board, it doesn't matter. This tachometer is for points ignition, and what I will do is order a replacement board for electronic ignition that'll even come with a calibrator, so I can calibrate the Tach on the bench before I contort myself and put it in the dash. But like I've said before, I like to wear a belt and suspenders. So we confirmed the Tach signal. Now what I'm going to do in the next video is I'm going to take the variable power supply. I know from reading from the supplier of the electronic Tach conversion module that this movement, this meter movement, is 0 to 3 volts. So 3 volts should be 8,000 RPMs. 1.5 volts should probably be 4,500 RPM. But I also don't want to blow up the Tach movement, because then I'll have to send it off and spend hundreds of dollars to rebuild the Tach movement. So next video, the power supply will be set up. I'll use a current limiting resistor so I don't blow anything up on the Tach. I'll start with 1 volt and just see if I get a movement. Then I'll put 1.5 volts in it, and then we'll be done. We know that the meter movement is good, and all I have to do is order this upgraded circuit board. Okay, the tachometer is disassembled on the bench, and there's bad news. I'm going to have to send the tachometer off to a specialist, because the tachometer movement, it's actually pretty simple. You have a magnet here in the bottom of the Tach, so you magnetize the poles of this little round track here, or race, and then a coil gets energized and moves around this track, therefore you move the RPMs. Well, the coil is good, but there's something wrong with the movement. So there's no sense me buying an upgraded Tach board and converting the tachometer myself. I'm going to send it to a tachometer shop in Tempe, Arizona. They've done some work on Jim's Coronet cluster. I'll call them on Monday and tell them, I'll say, look, I'm an engineer. I hope I know what I'm doing here. But it looks like the movement is bad. So it's probably going to be several weeks before we get a tachometer in the car, but it's bugged me. This is a very rare option, even on the Roadrunner. So it's worth getting this fixed, getting the tachometer restored. Even though I have an automatic transmission, I like to see a tachometer on the dash, a factory Tach at that. So we'll get back to work here to put everything back together, and hopefully in a couple of weeks we'll have a video with the Tach working.